Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, on the Runebound Retrospective, we are going to finish up our coverage of Runebound 2nd Edition, and then we will move on to Runebound 3rd Edition. So in today's episode, we are going to talk about some of the small box expansions that I own, and I'm also going to give some buyers/collectors advice for people just now maybe wanting to get into Runebound 2nd Edition and how I would go about that if I were just getting into the game. So here are all of these small box expansions that I have. First of all, if any game designers, developers, publishers are watching these videos, please go back to printing, go back to making some expansions for your games that are this size. These were so cool when they originally came out. We could go to a store and buy an expansion for a game we loved for like $8, for less than $10. These would be up at the counter, with little packs of magic cards, basically as an impulse buy. And some of these card packs would add so much variety and so much fun to a game that we already had and loved. They wouldn't add a whole bunch of new rules or anything like that, so we could easily mix this stuff into our games. And it just made that it created that long tail for Runebound with all of these little expansions that were always available. It was just fun to go to a store and buy something small. We didn't have to worry about storing it or unboxing a whole bunch of minis and figuring out how we were going to fit all of that back in our base box. Just a really smart idea, and I would love to see more adventure games, more dungeon crawl games today embrace this idea of the small expansion, of the micro expansion. I love this. It's kind of like what Jason Glover did with Iron Helm. He's got these small little booster pack expansions that are just really fun to buy and introduce into our game. So the small box expansions for Runebound came in 4 different flavors. We had the character decks, and those would add kind of like custom character classes that you could build towards while you were playing Runebound. It gave the characters a little more personality by introducing some special skills and challenges devoted to those classes. And then we have the cards with the blue banner. And those are item and ally cards. And like the name suggests, those all added allies and or items to the various decks in the base game. The green banner cards here are challenge card expansions. And those would just add encounters to your green, red, blue/purple, and yellow decks. So those would also just get mixed into your base game. And then we had the orange or red banner expansions, and those were the adventure variants. And these would add kind of a new twist to the game. These cards and these decks would usually take the place of the cards in your base game. You would have a more direct conflict with the big bad found in these, and it would add usually some kind of new twist on the end game. So in my order of recommendation, I would like the item and allies first, and then the challenge cards, and then the variants, and then the character packs. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about that when we get to the buyer's guide/collector's guide portion of this video. So let's just start down here to the left here and go with our adventure variant. So this adventure variant, like I said, this would add a new way to kind of a new challenge to the end game. This would change up the way that the game is actually played. And a lot of these things in here, you would substitute out cards from your base game and just play with these cards here. So it came with a whole deck of different challenge cards that would be thematically appropriate to this particular little mini adventure. And this one here is called the 7 Scions. And this says, in the Seven Scions, an adventure variant for Runebound 2nd Edition, a new threat looms. A storm that will destroy everything in its path is gathering on the horizon, and the Stormlords who rule it, godlike in their power, have devastated world after world. Your only hope is to awaken the Seven Scions, legendary defenders of the land, prophesied to arise in Terranoth's hour of need. So the variants would come, the adventure variants would actually come with rules that you would either change the setup or change something about the way the game is played. And then again, they would have their own specifically tailored thematic cards that you would face off, thematic encounter cards that you would face off against while you were playing that particular adventure variant. These are I rarely use these expansions just because of the way I play Runebound, which is kind of a highly customized solo kind of sandbox open world variant. That's just the way I enjoy playing the most. And so I rarely play with these. Some of them can be kind of cool, but I only have 2 of these, and I am missing, I believe, 4 of them. I am missing the Crown of the Elder Kings, the Scepter of Kairos, the Avatars of Kelnov, and the Cataclysm. And I priced those out today as of June 27th, 2023. And they range in price from about $25 to $50 each on eBay. The other one here is the Cult of the Rune. The Cult of the Rune expansion brings you an entirely new Runebound play experience. The terrors of necromancers and dragonlords are nothing compared to the insidious infiltration of mysterious cult that worships the runes themselves. They travel across the land performing foul rituals and corrupting the people and beasts of the land, and only powerful heroes can stop them. Don't get too close to the cult's forces, though, or you might find yourself next on their sacrificial altar. This expansion contains 30 new adventure cards. So again, this would be a whole little adventure variant, kind of like a micro way to change up all of the rules and stuff in Runebound. This would be a complete kind of adventure package. And then next, let's take a look at some of the challenge card expansions. So I don't have any cards in these boxes. They have already all been mixed in to my base game. And all of these small expansions expand just the base game. None of these small box expansions add anything specifically tailored for any of the large box expansions. So we have the Drake and Dragon Spawn. And I love that this includes this little paragraph here. There are no new rules to learn. Simply shuffle the new cards into your base Runebound adventure decks and play. That is by far my favorite kind of expansion. I love expansions that just add a variety of cards to the decks that I'm already having fun with. So this is the Drakes and Dragon Spawn expansion, hatches a new generation of legendary lizards to challenge your Runebound heroes. And then here we have the Dark Forest. And the Dark Forest expansion pack offers a new landscape of wilderness adventures for your Runebound adventure decks, including both challenges and encounters. And here we have the Shadows of Margoth. So the Shadows of Margoth expansion pack has been updated and revised for Runebound 2nd Edition. So this must have been one that was available for Runebound 1st Edition, which I have never even seen. The Shadow of Margoth's power and hate stretches across the realms of Terranoth, corrupting all it touches. Whether it's a mystical event or an evil foe, an unexpected challenge or baleful enemy, many adventures are scattered across the land, awaiting courageous heroes to fight them. And then the last 2 I have here are the Terrors of the Tomb and the Traps and Terrors. I really like these 2 a lot. These 2 I thought added a lot to the game. But here we have the Terrors of the Tomb expansion, provides a new host of undead horrors and dark spirits to add to your Runebound adventure decks. And Traps and Terrors is an expansion for Runebound 2nd Edition that introduces the most heartless and patient of perils, the Trap. From the prosaic false floor to the baleful hand of doom, these devious devices and malevolent magics will test even the staunchest heroes. I always like traps, and more dungeon crawls and more adventure games need more traps. So of the challenge card expansions, I'm only missing one box, and that one usually goes for over $100 or about $100. Right now, I think there are two on eBay, and that is the Beasts and Bandits expansion. So that one is quite sought after. I don't know if that one came out. Maybe that one came out later and they just didn't make as many. I'm not sure why that one is always so much more expensive. And then here we have the item and ally expansions. So these would just add new items and new allies that you can encounter during the market phase of your game. We have Weapons of Legend. Weapons of Legend is an expansion for Runebound 2nd Edition that introduces powerful new items like Soul Stealer and Bone Crusher, and cunning new allies like Oracle of the Owl and Heroes of Holdfast. But that's not all. Weapons of Legend also introduces a new kind of card, the Equipping Ally. Okay, I wonder if this one has a rule on the Equipping Ally. So some of these would come with a little rule book, but the rule book would have everything you needed for all of the expansions that were out at the time that this one came out. So yeah, here we have Weapons of Legend. So we have the Equipping Allies here. When a hero gains an Equipping Ally card, he can choose whether to use it as an ally with no special text abilities or as an item. If an Equipping Ally is chosen to be used as an item, place a fatigue token on it. Equipping allies have no stamina, so this is the only reason it should have fatigue. It has a special ability text listed on the card, but its ally attributes are ignored. So it's an ally that you can either use as an ally or as a piece of gear. So that's kind of just a small little new rule that this one expansion added. Okay, Ritual and Runes. Runes, this is the newest one I bought. I just bought this this year in 2023. And this is Rituals and Runes is an expansion for Runebound 2nd Edition that offers powerful new magic for heroes. Runes are well known to an adventurer, and new rune items like Everfull Purse and Fiery Doom expand your option. Rituals, however, are an all-new item type. Although they require a sacrifice of resources, they offer power beyond other items of similar cost. So the runes are pretty typical in Runebound. It's the namesake Runebound, the powerful runes that were found in Rune Wars and in Descent. The rituals here, you had to sacrifice movement dice in order to perform your rituals, and they would give you special powers. And then here we have Relics and Legends. I really like this expansion a lot. The Relics and Legends expansion pack offers new weapons, armor, allies, and banners. So all kinds of stuff that you can encounter during your market phase. This is a really cool expansion. These are the expansions that I like the least. And these expansions I actually wish I would not have purchased. I wish I would have taken the money I spent on these and applied it to the other expansions that I am missing. So the item and ally cards, I am missing artifacts and allies. That one is pretty hard to find, from $50 to $100. I am missing Champions of Kelos and the Walkers of the Wild, which I could not find any for sale as of today. But these add a kind of character class kind of mini game that you can play while you are playing your base game of Runebound. And each one of these is a special class. So this one I don't have the box for. This is the Wildlander. We have the Spiritbound, the Blade Dancer, the Shadow Walker, the Battle Mage, and the Rune Master. And each one of these decks of cards basically comes with the same kind of stuff. So let's take a look at the Rune Master here. Now these are more specifically made for competitive games of Runebound. So that's one of the reasons why I rarely use these, is because I typically play Runebound solo. These add almost a system kind of like Dungeoneer, the card game, which someday I will do a review of Dungeoneer, I promise. And these add a token system that, as a player, you will spend these tokens to use good cards on yourself, but then other players can use these to play bad cards on you during certain parts of your turn. And these cards also add skills that you can purchase with experience points to make your character into a certain class. In this case, you would make your character into a Rune Master. So this says, character decks offer an exciting new way to increase player interaction, and that they do. I just don't play the game like this. In the Runebound Fantasy Adventure board game, now your opponents can play cards to make your adventures even more menacing, and you can play special cards that give your hero a bonus when he or she needs it the most. However, you must utilize your newfound knowledge wisely because every action has a cost. It's kind of a cool idea for an expansion, and there are some ways that I've been toying with using these in a solo play. So we have basically two different colors of cards here that have a different costs. Let's divide these up here and take a look. So each of these expansions will come with 5 different skills that you can purchase, ranging from that go from level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's also a variant that you can start the game with your level 1 talent, I believe they are called. But these can be purchased for experience to make your character more of a bespoke class, so like the Rune Master. So all of these would be used to turn your character into a Rune Master. And then you have 2 different decks of cards here that have different costs. The ones that cost red, I think these are called Menace tokens. These are ones that you as the player would have a certain number in your hand, and these are things that you could play on yourself that cost this value here. So from 1 to, it looks like from 1 to 6 for this deck. And these are all different things that you could spend on your characters, such as you can spend that during your movement phase. Those, I think, get played during your experience phase, and then those get played during your adventure phase. And these you could just play on yourself to add certain bonuses. So let's see what the simulacrum is here. So for a cost of 3 Menace tokens, until the end of combat, if your enemy inflicts damage on your hero, place the damage on this card instead. So this card becomes a simulacrum of your hero, and it can absorb the damage for you. So that would cost you 3 Menace tokens. But then you would have kind of like 3 Menace tokens in a pool that the other players could spend to play these bad cards on you. Some of them cost 0, some of them cost 3. I saw one in here that costs 10. So that's all of your Menace tokens. So if you had played all of your tokens and you had 10 Menace tokens in your pool, then another player could drop the Dragon Lord Seats on you. And this would be a giant creature that you would have to fight during your movement phase. That is kind of cool. What I was thinking about in a solo mode would be that I could start with a few of these cards and then pay the cost into a pool. And then randomly on each turn, I could draw one of these. And if there were enough Menace tokens in the pool to play it, then I would just play it on myself during that particular phase of my turn. If there weren't, then I would hold on to these tokens to apply them to the next card, maybe triggering a more expensive card or something like that. I think there are some ways that you could easily use these in solo. I just haven't really explored it yet. And so for me, these haven't added a ton of value to my games of Runebound 2nd Edition. And some of these I did spend quite a bit of money on. Probably, I think the most expensive one was maybe like $50 or something. But each one of these character decks has the same allotment of cards. You will have those 5 talent cards to upgrade your character. Then you will have a certain number of good cards, a certain number of bad cards, and those Menace tokens. So we have the Battle Mage here. Then we have the Shadow Walker. We have the Blade Dancer. We have the Spirit Bound. And we have the Wildlander. So the Wildlander, I do not have a box for. It's the only small expansion I'm missing the box for. Here we have our Wildlander, Sense Danger, Pathfinder, Forest Stalker, and Harvest from the Hunt. So those would be your 5 talents. Then we have our cards here. I've already divided this deck. So we have our bad cards here. We have Scorpion Sting, Flash Flood, Desecrated Graveyard, Glamour of the Wild Fae, Maddening Wail, Sundering Strike, Korgot the Destroyer, the Frost Giants, Thakog the Attended, Blackthorn Bandits, Recall Agony, Minotaur's Strength, Flesh Golem. And then the good cards that you could play on yourself as a Wildlander would be Master of the Wood, Forest Allies, Berserker Charge, Relentless Tracker, Rapids Rider, Herb Lore, Wind Blast, True Shot, Druid Circle, Awaken Treants, Rock Storm, and Heart Strike. So kind of cool. I think I should probably spend a little bit of time developing some kind of system to get some use out of these character decks in a solo game. I mean, hey, I've already paid for them. I might as well spend the time, right? Okay, and to finish up my coverage of Runebound 2nd Edition, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I would do if I was just getting into Runebound today, because I know some people still want to, and the game is getting quite expensive, especially the expansions. So if I was just wanting to get into Runebound 2nd Edition, what would I personally buy right now that would offer up as much game as possible and something that I would really appreciate? And I kind of did a little analysis here. So I would buy, of course, the base game of 2nd Edition, which the base game of 2nd Edition does come with a lot of stuff. You are looking at a really good selection of cards and heroes, tons of heroes, 12 different heroes, all kinds of cards. Just the base game for Runebound is pretty good, and you can still find that for not a lot of money. You can find the base game usually in pretty good condition from about $20 to $60. I'm pretty sure they made quite a few of these. Then from there, what I would do is I would actually buy the fan-made expansions from ArtsCow. Again, because ArtsCow is weird, the best way to find these cards is to Google or Bing or AltaVista or Dogpile or Ask Jeeves, whatever you want to use. Just do Google Runebound ArtsCow, and then you will find the ArtsCow gallery, or the Runebound gallery, that contains all of these decks. You have your Clue deck, your Cities of Adventure, your Caves. I do not recommend the Caves. I would not buy the Caves. I have found this pretty lackluster. But we have our Clues, our Cities, our Quest, our In the Wild, and our expansion to In the Wild. I would buy all of these. But right here, I think these are about $100, but that's with like $40 in shipping. Shipping from China has gone up a lot in the past couple of years. However, on ArtsCow, you can always find these coupons, and right now there's one called Big 35 Deal, and you get 35% off. So you can get all of these decks of cards for about $100 shipped. And these add so much to the base game of Runebound. I love these expansions. They just add a lot of random encounters, and random encounters are what Runebound is all about. And they add different quests and different side quests. These are just fantastic. I love these. So what I would do is for my just kind of initial purchase, I would get Runebound 2nd Edition and the fan-made stuff from ArtsCow. And I think just these two combined would be enough to have a really great game for a really long time. And then I would slowly maybe look for a couple of the Green Banner challenge card expansions or the Blue Banner item and ally card expansions, because all those do is add more variety to the decks in Runebound that you already have. And I think those are the best of the small expansions, especially for people approaching this game as a solo player, because as a solo player, what you really want is just a lot of variety, a lot of different things to experience. You want to increase the odds of always coming across new and interesting things. You can still find some of these challenge card and ally card expansions for around $20 to $40 each. So for about $200 in total, you could have a really great base game with a great overland hex map and a lot of adventure with a ton of different encounter cards. I personally, if I was just getting into the game right now, I would not buy any of the large box expansions. The large box expansions I rarely use. One of the reasons why is, for me, I can pull out the base game of Runebound with the ArtsCow expansions and just know how to play. The rules are so simple in Runebound. It comes back to me in a snap, and there aren't a lot of wrinkles to the rules. I can be up and playing in a matter of minutes. Each of the large box expansions adds quite a bit of new stuff on top of the rules, and I always have to remind myself what I'm supposed to be doing with the different components. And also with the big box expansions, you substitute out the deck of adventure cards from your base game, and you only use the adventure cards in that expansion. So you don't get to combine everything. And I prefer my combined decks of cards that I have in Runebound 2nd Edition over those found in the big box expansions. So if I were just getting into this game today, I would not buy the big box expansions. Also, they're harder to store. They take up more room. I can fit all of this that you're seeing right now into this base game, this base box. It all fits inside here. All of the Arts Cow cards, all of these decks, and the board. Everything that I need for my base game of Runebound fits in this one box. And that's kind of how I like it. That's how I would prefer it. So yeah, so that's what I would do. I would buy the base game, I would buy the Arts Cow expansions, and then I would buy just one or two of the either the challenge card or the ally card expansions as you find them for a price that you feel comfortable with. Well, all right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this coverage of Runebound 2nd Edition. Like I said, we will be moving into Runebound 3rd Edition in the very near future. Take it easy. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.